There are 3 videos in this series. First one is for beginner builders, second one is for intermediate builders, and the third one is for advanced builders. This video is for advanced builders. Today we're going to be building a bird. This is actually from the Lego Ideas, I believe it's called Birds. It's a kit, however, for this specific video I have modified it a bit. So if you're following along, if you happen to have the kit, just know that if you're trying to follow along, I did change it a bit. So this is what we'll be learning how to build today. We will be focusing on using all sorts of different Lego bricks, as well as using technic pieces, functional pieces, brick locking, as well as SNOT, which stands for studs not on top. And that's what's going to allow us to build the 3D look of this bird. So we will be building our bird in different sections. Each section will build and then set aside. This is our first section. It is going to be the bird's body. Take your time, go ahead and pause the video if you need to in order to collect all of your pieces. Just a little bit of help here. All of these guys here are light gray. These guys are light gray. We have a dark gray as well as a black. Now, if you do not have these pieces either in the color scheme or in the size, you guys should know how to substitute. Feel free to substitute out what you need to. Also, you don't have to follow my color scheme. However, if you want to, it is the easiest way to do so. So I've laid all of my pieces out. Again, this is just for the body of the bird, and I've laid mine out just so you guys can see which pieces I'm grabbing, the colors that come with them. Again, feel free to substitute if you're missing a brick or if you want a different color scheme, that's fine. This is the body of the bird, so all of it is going to be a light gray. That's what you're going to see from the body of the bird. So the very first brick we're going to start with is a 4x4 plate. We're going to set that out in front of us. Next brick we want, this is a 2x4, and we're going to set it, we're going to leave one spot clear, and we're going to set it just 3 studs on each side, and then we have a little bit of an overhang. So if you see that, we have 4 studs here, 4 studs here, and 4 studs here, and those are all clear. So the next brick we're going to put on is a 1x4, and we're going to add it right up to the top of this guy. So we basically just made a T. So if I were to turn it, you can kind of see the T. And that is our first couple. The next brick we want to add to this is a 2x3. So it's got 2 studs and 3 studs. This is also a plate. So far all of these that we're using are plates. And we're going to put this guy right on top of the 2 we just added. So he's going to cross over that 1x4 and onto that 2x4 brick. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, and we're going to step down and have our 2, and we also have those 2 on the side that's open. So that is our first step with the plates. Next we are going to add 1x1 slopes. So these are little itty bitty guys that slope down. They cover one area, and they're kind of like tiles in the sense that they are smooth. So we're going to take 2 of those, and we are going to put them on with the slope facing that direction. We're going to put them on those 2 areas that I said that were clear. So right there and right there. So those are the slopes that are sloping that way. Next, we are going to take a 1x2 plate, and we are going to set that right here. We're going to leave a space here because we're going to add a brick there, and this one's going to go right next to that. And the reason we left that space and the reason we added that there is we are now going to add another of those little slopes, but this one is actually a 2x1, so you can see it's going to take up 2 versus the ones we were using earlier, they only take up 1 spot. So these are going to take up 2 spots. And we're putting it there, and the reason we added that other one is we're using it as a backing to that one. So now we have our slopes on this side, and we're still building with our plates on the other side. We are going to add our only 2 bricks in the body. These are 2x1s, 1x2s. These are actual bricks, they're not plates, and they are going to go on each side that we have those spaces left. So one on this side, and you'll notice when you add it, it's going to be even with your little slope. One on this side, again, it's even. That's how we know we're correct. The studs are just going to pop up just a little bit. Next, we are going to grab what I like to call a function piece. It's not really technic because it doesn't go with the technic bricks. This guy is a 1x2 plate, but instead of 2 studs, he has 1 stud and 1 hinge connection. So hinge connection means that we're eventually going to put a piece onto this piece that's going to hinge, allowing us to move. This is actually going to be the bird's legs. So we have our 2 empty spots over here still. We're going to add 1 to each of those, so 1 on each side. I happen to have dark gray of these. These are ones that, depending on what color you have, use whatever color you have available. You will see them a little bit at the end of the bird, but it doesn't really matter that much. So go ahead and add those to there, and then we need to brick lock all of that in. So in order to brick lock that, you need a 1x4, and we're going to put this across all the way, across both those dark gray ones that I used and the gray. So right in the middle there. Brick lock those in, and then we just need 1 more to fill in that spot. So it's a 1x2, and we're going to fill that spot in so that we have an even area here. Next, we are going to take another 1x2, and we're going to add it on top of the one we already had over here. So that makes it, our other slope is now even with this area, with the studs just popping up a little bit. And we're going to take 1x1s in the grays, these little guys, and we're going to add them to each of these sides. And what that does is that brings up the level so that our sides are now even with the bricks that we added. Next, we're going to take 2 of the 1x2s, and we are going to brick lock those bricks we just added. So we just added those 1x1s, and that brought up the level to our bricks. So we're going to brick lock that in by covering up that 1x1 and that brick. So we have a space in the front still that we're not covering. We're going to do that on both sides. And then in the middle here, we're going to add, this is a 2x2 rounded brick. So it is a brick size, but it's not square, it's rounded. You notice it has the cross in the middle. That is for technic pieces. This is what is going to make your bird sit on a stand if you wanted to build a stand for him. So we are going to put that right in the middle here. You might have to turn him a bit till he pops in, just like that. And then on the back side here, we are going to add the last, oh, well, not the last, but we have 1 more of our 1x2 slopes, and we're going to add it there so that we have a slope up to our round piece. So that's the first part of the body. The next part we're going to build separate. What we need is a 2x4 piece. I'm going to go ahead and turn it so you guys can see a little easier. I'm going to take a 1x4 and I'm going to add it onto there, creating kind of a step. I'm going to take 1 more of the 1x2s and we're going to add it to the middle just like we did earlier. So that again leaves us 2 empty spots on each side. We are going to add our single slopes, those 1x1 slopes. We're going to add those to those empty spots, just like that. And then our last 1x2 slope we're going to add right on top of there, so it's a little bit raised from the other 2. And this guy is going to slide in. If I flip this guy, you notice we have a space right here. He's going to go right there, and he's going to just get added onto the body. So that's what the body looks like. And all we're missing is our legs, and this is where the technic pieces come in. So the first technic pieces I have this hinge piece. And you'll notice it's open on one side with not a claw, but with an open and serrated area. On the other side, it has that same hinge piece that our other pieces had. So that's the first, and we want 2 of those. The second one looks very similar to that one, but it's actually shorter. It has the hinge open area like before, but then it has a hole with a cross at the bottom. So we want 2 of those as well. And the reason we want those is we're going to take 1 of each. So where we have that hinge connection, we're going to clip those together. And why it's a hinge is you can see it moves. And that's what makes it a hinge. So we're going to do that on both sides. So we're going to clip this one together. Same thing, it's a hinge. And then those hinges connect to the other hinges we had earlier. So they can connect just like that. And that way you can move your bird's feet and however you need to move them in order for him to sit down. We are going to go ahead and add his little legs. So for these, and these are the pieces, if you don't have them, they aren't needed. You can build a stand without the legs. He will still sit on a stand. which I will show you at the end of the video. If you do have these, he will also sit by himself. He will also sit by himself without them. So if you don't have these pieces, that is okay. I know they are a little bit harder to come by. If you do have these pieces, it's a fun little detail to add. So I'm going to take the little crossbar. This is a pin. It's just a little crossbar pin, and I have 2 of these. And then I have these detail pins, which are just basically claws. And then they have just an open pin at the end. And I have 4 of those. So if I take one of my crossbars, I'm going to clip 2 of those pins onto the bar, and then I'm just going to slide it into that hole that we left, and that makes his little talons. I'm going to do the same here and clip those there. So we have, if we flip this over now, we were building upside down, but it really is going to flip over. We have our bird, and when he actually sits, he can sit just on the table with his feet down. Again, if you don't have the pieces for the feet, he can sit on his own without his little legs as well. That is the first step of our build. So once this guy is done, we're just going to set him aside and move on. The next part of our bird that we are building is going to be what makes the bird a 3D model. So this is the pieces that you're going to need to create the inner mechanisms that allow us to build 3D. So the next part we're going to build is actually in 2 pieces. This is what's going to be inside of our bird that allows us to build in a 3D way. There is a technical term for this. It is called SNOT, which stands for studs not on top. Basically what that means is when we have our bird, our studs are going to face all the directions. It's just not your normal bottom to top build that you would do with Lego. So again, that's SNOT, studs not on top, and what we're about to build is what's going to allow us to do that technique. So in front of me, I have the pieces that you need. I've laid them out so you can kind of see them. I am using all white. This is something where it has no matter at all whether you use a different color or not. This 2 pieces that we're about to build for our bird, you don't see them at all in the build. So if you need to use different colors, go for it. So the very first thing we're going to do is we have these 2x4 plates. You'll notice that it is raised on one side, and then on one side you have 2 studs on the side. That's a perfect example of SNOT because we have studs on the top and studs on the side. And we're going to take 2 of those and we're going to slide them together and we're going to connect them using a 2x4. So that gives us something that looks like this, and that's the first of our set. Next, we are going to add right on top of that a 2x4 plate. So again, these are all plates and we're just adding and building that layer up so it's a little bit bigger. The next plate we're going to add is a 2x6. We're going to add this one, it's going to overhang a little bit, and that's okay. So you can see how it's overhanging here. So we're going to set that down. The next pieces we need 4 of these guys. Now these are also functional pieces. So if we're just building on top, they have only 2 studs, they're 1x2s, but on the side, they have 4 more studs in a 2x2 section. So this is what's going to allow us again to build that SNOT. We're going to add these right here. So this way, when we add them, 2 on this side and 2 on this side, our piece that we just built now has studs on top and on 3 of its sides. So that's what's going to allow us to build the 3D bird. So that is our first one. We're going to go ahead and set that aside because we need to build another one. So same thing, we're going to take our 2, these are again the plates that have the raised section as well as the studs on the side. We're going to take 2 of them, slide them together, connect them with a 2x2 plate. That brings them together and makes it a nice even surface. Then for this one, we're actually going to use 2x3s, and these are also plates. We're going to stack 2 of them together and add those to one of the sides. So we still have an opening on one side. Now for this side that's open, we are going to use, this is a 1x1. It has a stud on the side. Now a lot of times when you see these, you may see ones that look like this, where it has the stud on the side, but it has an indent, so it has a little lip. We do not want to use one of these this time. We want to use one that does not have that lip and it's not indented. If you don't have a single, they do make them in doubles as well, which is what this one is. So depending on what you have, again, the color doesn't matter. You don't see any of this when the bird is complete. You're gonna use what you have. So I'm gonna use, because I like to be all white, I'm gonna use 2 of mine. I'm gonna add them right there so that my studs are facing that way. So if we turn it, we have 4 studs total on that edge. And then in our empty spots here, we are going to add that first empty spot. We're going to add another functional piece. This is a 1x2 tile with 1 stud in the middle. And that allows us to build offset because it allows us to offset our studs. So that guy's going to go right behind the other guys we just added. And then in those final 2 spaces, we're going to add 2 more of those plates that have the 2 studs on top and the 4 studs on the side. And we're going to do those like this. So this one, a little different from this one, we have studs on top and all 4 sides this time. So those are the 2 pieces that we are going to be using inside of our bird to be able to build 3D. The next part of our bird will be the 2 wings. In front of you, this is the Lego list for the wings. Again, it depends on the color that you want to build. Specifically, I'm using the grays to match my body, and then my wings I chose to do black and red. So it's up to you depending on what colors. Just one note that we have the wing sets. These are those angle pieces. You want to make sure you have a full set of each. And then we will do our wings. So I've laid out all of my pieces for my wings. Again, there's those angle pieces. You want to make sure you have one of each set, meaning that if I have 2 of these and I put them together, they have an angle each. So you don't want to have, like, if these were the same color, they won't go together. So that's not a set. So make sure when you're finding these, you have the matching set to each color. All right, so we are gonna build the wings. We're gonna do both wings at the same time. So I'm gonna be building 2 sets of wings, and it's gonna be interesting. You wanna pay attention because they're gonna be mirrored to each other, which means if I do one side on the one wing, it's gonna be the opposite side on the other wing. So we are gonna start with 2 of the 4x4 plates in red. So these are gonna be my 2 wings, one on here, one on here. Next one is 2 of the these are the 4x4s. It's the same one as what we just had, but these are black. And I'm just gonna stack those and push them together just like that. All right, again, 2 separate wings is what we're doing. The next piece you need is a 1x4. We need one for each wing, and here's where we're gonna start mirror imaging. So for this wing, I'm gonna put this guy on the very edge. I'm leaving 1 space clear and I'm overhanging 1. Now for the other wing, we're gonna do the same thing, but instead of doing it on this edge, we're gonna do the opposite edge, which means I'm gonna come all the way over to this edge. See how that's different? So that's what you wanna pay attention to. So I really do suggest putting them in front of you and working with them one at a time together, like each brick goes on, making sure you're imaging those pieces. The next pieces we need, we wanna grab our gray set of angles as well as our red set of angles. So for the first one, we want to grab the angle in gray, and when I look at it, I want my long edge to be facing me. So if I move my wings aside and I flip this one, this long edge, so if I put them together right now in front of me, they make a V. That's what I want. So I'm going to take the first one and set it, we're going to put it even with this edge so that it's also even with this edge, and that one's going to go on first. Same thing, we're on the other side, but you'll notice we're just opposite again, just like that. With our reds, if I put my reds in front of me and I put them together, they are going to equal that pair. That's how we're going to put them on here. And you'll notice when I put that down, the line angle of the red meets up with the line angle of the gray. Same thing on the other side. So again, we're still mirror imaging. They should look like this at this point. Next piece we are going to add is a special piece. This is a plate. Normally it would take up a 2x2, but you notice we're missing a corner. So we're going to use those corner pieces along with a 1x1. So we need 2 for each. So we've got 1 pair here, 1 pair here. So with that first piece, this 1x1, we're going to place not on the first area here, but on the second stud. So it's actually going to go right in line with our gray. Same thing on this side, right in line with our gray. And then these corner pieces are what we're going to add next. Now when we add these pieces, we want to add it so that we have one stud sticking out, and you're going to notice it's going to be a space, stud, and then 2 spaces. So on each side, make sure that you're adding it mirror image, which means they're not quite the same, they're just opposite, just like that. Next, we need 2 1x3s and 2 1x2s, and we're going to take one of those and we're going to stack one of the 1x2s on top. And that area where we have that one stud that's not stacked, we are going to add to that missing spot in our wing, like that. And we're going to do the same thing for the other wing. Next, we need our black pair of angles. I'm going to go ahead and put these in the middle so you guys can see them, as well as 1x2s, one for each wing. And we are going to add that 1x2 to the very top, not over that stud that's still over, but over that first stud of the gray. We're going to do that on both sides. And now we're going to add our angles. And we're actually going to flip them, so if you put them together, they're going to make that V again. And this one is going to go right next to that one we just added. There's going to be an overhang space there. Same thing on the other side. Add it in. There's going to be that overhang. And that's what our wings are looking like at the moment. The final piece of our wings, we need to grab 1x3, one for each wing, and then 2 of those corner pieces again, but those are in black, and we need 2 for each wing. So if we take that corner piece and you angle it to make it look at you with the piece down in the corner, I'm going to take my next one just like this, and I'm going to add this corner stud onto the middle stud here. So basically I'm stacking those. They're going to feel a little wobbly, just like that. And then if I flip it, there's those studs there. I'm going to add my gray onto that. Okay, I'm going to do that again so you guys can, and I'm going to do it a little differently for the next wing. So I have my 1x3. If I lay out my corner piece, I want to put it right next to the 1x3 so that I have 2 studs this way and 1 stud down. Then I'm going to add my other one, putting the 2 studs on my corner piece, one on the black and one on the gray to connect them. So that was another version of how you could do that piece. Now with these guys, we are going to add them right underneath our wings so that they match up with that other corner piece. And what I mean by that is we're going to put that right there. So basically we're filling in that empty spot that we made. Right there, just like that. And those are the wings of our bird. The next part of our bird that we are building is the tail. I have chosen to do black pieces to match the black of my wings. We have some functional pieces here. Again, the color really doesn't matter. I kept with black, and I actually didn't have any of these in the black, so I went with gray. Again, doesn't really matter as long as you have the right pieces. The other thing we're going to use is some 1x1 slopes. I'm using brown today just for a little pop of color in my bird, so it's up to you what color you guys want. So for our tail, we are going to take a 2x6 and a 1x6, and we're basically going to slide those together, making basically a 3x6, which of course does not exist in Lego, but we can create our own here. So in order to connect those, I'm going to take another 2x6. I'm just going to put it on top of those 2 pieces that are separate, and that's going to put them all together. The next brick I'm going to add is a 1x4, and this one I'm going to add to that lower level. I'm going to leave a stud open on each side. So we're going to put that guy right there. And then to finish off this, I'm going to add 2 1x1s, one on each corner of this further edge. So one there and one there. All right, so on top of these, we're going to add our first functional pieces. These are 1x2s, and we used these earlier, but instead of a hook earlier, we used a hinged piece. These ones have a hook piece on them. So we're going to take 4 of those, the first one we're going to set right next to that 1 by 1 we just added, making sure the hook is on this edge. Same thing, but on the other side, we're going to put that one there. And then these last two, we're going to put right in the middle here, but we are going to move them back one. So right here, the hook's going to be just one behind the other one. Same thing with this one. So that is what our tail looks like at the moment. Now we're going to add some detail, and I'm using brown just to add a little bit of pop of color to my bird. You can use whatever color you want, but these are those 1 by 1 slopes that we have used before. The first one I'm going to put is down here next to these guys. I'm going to put them so that the angles on this side are facing that way, angles on this side are facing this way. So in and out, just like that. Same thing, I'm just going to go up one, put on my next layer. And then same thing on this back, I'm going to add them, but these ones are going to be right next to the hooks on the edge. Just like that. Next, we're going to add to all of those a 2 by 1 piece, and we're going to slide that guy right on top of these here. So that's going to go right in here, just like that. And that is the first step of our tail. So for the actual tail pieces, we are going to use 2 by 4s. These have an addition to them. This is a hook, and the reason or not a hook, a bar. And these go into the hook pieces that we were just using. So I have 4 of those. I'm sticking again with black because that's the color I've chosen for my tail. So to the first one of those, we are going to attach a 1 by 6, and I'm just going to add that right on top of that piece, and I'm going to do 2 of those, just like those. And for the next piece of the tail, I'm going to take 2 of those bars, those 1 by 2s with the bars, and I'm going to add them on top of a 2 by 4 piece. So right on top, like that. Then on top of this guy, I'm going to add another of the 2 by 4s. So I have a little bit of a jut out there. And then on top of those, I'm going to add another 2 by 4, connecting all of that together. And then in this final space, I'm going to add a 2 by 3. And those are all plates. So I have this, and if I turn it to the side, you can kind of see it goes up in a little stairway. So that is the other piece of our tail. Now if we come back to our actual tail piece, we have those 4 hooks that I had. The first, let's start with the big one. This big guy that we made, the one with the 2s, is going to go right in the middle in those 2 hooks that we had. So you're going to clip that guy in, and then on each side, those 1s are going to go in. So right here, clip that guy in, and here, clip that guy in. And that makes it so that our tail can actually move up and down. Okay, and we're going to set that guy aside. The next part of our bird is going to be his back. It's going to be a small piece. It is a couple function pieces, so make sure you can collect these. I'm choosing black to continue with my black color scheme, as well as the brown to give it a pop. Again, you can use whatever colors you want. Alright, so for the back of our bird, we want a 1 by 4 brick, but this is a function, or a technic brick actually, which means it has those holes in it for the technic pieces. So it's got 4 studs on top and 3 holes in the middle. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that, and these are called pins. These are actually half pins, which means that they're only pins on one side. Some of them are a little longer when you see the Lego pins. These ones are the short ones. And we're simply just going to stick those guys in those holes until they pop all the way in. And that gives us basically studs on the side. It's another technique of using that SNOT method, having the studs on the side of the brick. And that's how you can create it on your own if you don't have the bricks that have the studs on the side already. So on top of those, we're actually going to start building on the side. So I'm going to take my brick, and instead of putting it upright, I'm going to lay it down. And this is a 1 by 4 black is what I'm doing, and this is a plate, and I'm just going to connect it straight to those studs we just put on there. So now I have the studs on the top and the studs on the side. To that guy, I'm going to add a 1 by 2, and I'm going to add it right in the middle. And then on top of that guy, I'm going to add a 1 by 2. This is a tile, And what a tile is it's a 1x2, but it does not have any studs on it. It's nice and smooth. So any brick that is smooth like that, that doesn't have the studs, that's called a tile. And we're gonna add that right on top of the one we just had. Then you'll notice we have 2 spaces on each end. That's where I'm gonna add my 1x1 slopes. Again, I'm using brown. I'm gonna put them on so that they're sloping in each direction. So if we look at this, it's a nice smooth transition from this side all the way over to the other side. And that is the head, or the back of our bird, that it will attach to the back of his head. All right, and the next piece we're gonna build is the head of our bird. I'm staying with my color scheme of using black and red as well as some brown accents. This has a lot of pieces, so feel free to take your time and pause the video if you need to collect them. All right, now we're going to build the head of our bird. To start, we need a 1x3 plate. I'm using black, as well as a 1x2. Basically, we're gonna take those and we're gonna slide them together. Then we're going to connect them right down the middle with a 1x3. So if I add that on, I have a space on each side. In those 2 spaces, we are going to add 2 of our 1x1 slopes. Again, I'm using brown for a little pop of color. I'm going to add those on. The slopes are going to be going in each separate direction there. Then we're going to kind of just set this guy aside for now. And the next thing we're going to need is a 1x4. I'm using red, following my color scheme that I was using with my wings. On top of this 1x4, I'm going to add 2 1x2s. These are the tiles that have the single stud in the middle, and these are used to offset your build. So if you wanted to move your build a little bit, that's what these are for, and you're going to see that here in a second. So I'm going to add 2 of those on top, and when I bring back my other piece and I add those, if I were to put them right next to each other, you'll see that they don't match up. But because I used those 2 middle studs, if I move them just a tiny bit and match up those studs and then connect them using 2 1x2s, you'll notice that because we used those middle studs, I have a tiny little area here that I was able to move that stud over. And it just gives it a little bit more of a different look to it. So that's what those are for. So right now, this is what we should have for our head. Next is I'm going to grab a 1x3 and 2 more of those middle stud ones that I was talking about. I'm going to move those together and add that 1x3 on top. So again, you can see the use of the middle studs. By adding that, I have a little bit of space on each side. That's not a full stud, but it's going to add a little bit of volume to our bird. I'm going to take that one and I'm going to slide it right up next to the one we just did. These ones are going to match up. And then I'm going to combine all of those together with another 1x3, and we're going to put that right down the middle. Just like that. Next, I'm going to go ahead and turn this guy around. So I've got the side with the 2 of the slopes is facing me. And I'm going to add our next functional brick. This is a 1x1 brick with the stud. We talked about this one earlier. This is actually the one that does have the indent in the lip, and that is what we want, versus the one that does not have the indent in the lip. So I have these. I have 3 of them in black. So I'm going to take all 3 of them, and I'm going to put them on these 3 back studs with the stud facing me. So those studs and indents are going to face out towards the back of the head, just like that. Go ahead and set that guy aside for a moment. We're going to take a 1x3. Right in the middle of that 1x3, we're going to add a 1x1. I'm doing brown again because I like that pop of color. Just right in the middle there. On top of that brown, I'm adding another 1x1 in black. And then on each of those sides that we left open, I'm adding 2 more of those 1x1 slopes. Just like that. And this guy, if we bring our head back, I'm going to turn him sideways. I'm going to stick him right to those studs we just added. So you can see we just built sideways onto that guy. So that's the back of the head. We're going to go turn it around, go back towards the front of the head. I am going to take a 1x1. This is just a plain 1x1 red brick, and I'm going to add it to that middle right there. On each side, I'm going to add another one of those bricks that has the indent and the stud. These ones are red, and this time I'm going to put them facing outward. These are going to be our eyes. So once I have them out there, I'm going to add to those side studs a 1x1. This is a round one on 1x1. And this one is a black. Those are going to be my eyes. So I'm going to add those now to each side, just like that. And then for the beak, I'm going to do the same thing. I have a 1x1 brick with the stud and the indent. I'm going to actually make that indent pop out a little bit more using a 1x1 brick. Now, if you don't have these and you can't do that, you can use the one without the indent for the beak. However, if you notice, without the indent and without the extra, it's a little shorter. So it just depends on your preference. I like the fact that the beak sticks out a little bit, so I'm going to use this. It's going to go right in the middle, and then our beak is a black barrel that tapers off on top, or a cone, if you will. And that's just going to go right there. So now we have part of our bird's head. We need to finish it up, though. In order to finish it up, we're going to take 1x1s, and on top of both of these 1x1s, we're going to add 1x1 slopes. These ones are actually red this time to match with the color scheme. We're going to add them on just like this. And then we're going to add them to each of those sides of the bird that we still have missing. So one on each side, just like that. And then we're going to finish him off by adding some bricks to the top of his head. So the first thing that we are going to do is take a 1x4 brick, or I'm sorry, a 1x4 plate, and we're going to put it right through the middle here, and that's going to hold all of that together. Then you'll notice we still have some sides here. We're going to do a 2x1 right next to that, as well as right next to that. And then to add a little bit more depth to this guy, we're going to add another 1x2, but we're going to add it right in the middle of those, so it's going to stick up a little bit, just like that. And then our final 1x1 slope here, we're going to turn. You'll notice we still have a stud here. We're going to add him there, and we are going to add him, I believe, facing upward. Yep, so if I add him here, the slope's going to go up, fat end is going to go down, and that is the head of our bird. The last part of our bird that we are going to build is what is going to be the front of him. It's really quick. Again, I am using red because that is my color scheme. So the first brick we're going to take is a 2x6, and we're just going to set it right in front of us. Next brick is a 2x4, and I'm actually going to put this right in the middle, creating a cross. Just like that. So if I flip it, you'll notice there's two spots that are open there on the bottom. So we're crossing that one off. Next, I'm going to take two of the 1x2s, and I'm going to put one on each side of that brick we just added on. So basically we have a mini cross on top of that big one that we were using. On top of that, I'm going to add a 2x2 plate, and it's going to go right in the middle here. And again, that's just adding more definition. So we have kind of a staircase. If we flip it over, you still notice we still have those empty spots. That's what we're going to add our last 1x4s to. So if I flip this back over, I'm going to connect the 1x4 right in the middle so you can see one stud each on each side. I'm going to put that one there and that one there. And that is the front of our bird. Now that we have all of our pieces ready for our bird, we're going to actually assemble him. So we are going to start by taking the body of our bird, and we built it like this, but we're going to flip it over for right now so that we can reach the middle of him. And within the middle of this, we are going to add our two pieces that make our bird. These I did in white. They're the ones that go inside. That first one that has the little lip on it, you see the one that sticks out, that's our first piece. So we're going to take our bird. And you'll notice there's a lip here as well, and that's perfect for this guy. So we're going to put him upside down, and we're going to put him in the middle and push him together just like that. So that's the first part. Next, we're going to take one of our wings. Does not matter which one. So right now I have this guy. And I'm going to put him where he fits right into this little crook right here. So if you move him around, he's going to fit right into the crook like that. And I'm going to push him down. So that's one wing, and it's connected to that inside piece. I'm going to take the next one. This is our other white one, and he is going to go with the studs on top right next to this guy. So he doesn't actually connect to that other white one, but he does connect to the wing we just added. So go ahead and push that in. Now it may seem a little funny and it might be a little wobbly. That's okay. The only reason it's not completely secure yet is because we haven't added our other wing. So now's the chance for you to add your other wing. Go ahead and grab that, and you're going to connect him right to those spots that we just had. So he fits right into that hole. And then push him together until everything clips together. All right, and that's the wings of our bird. Next, we have this open area here. That is where we're going to add our tail. My suggestion is to go ahead and flip those tail wings up just so that you have enough room. You're going to slide that guy in and push on him until he connects to that body as well. And then you can move his tail back down to whatever you would like it to be. And now you're noticing we're starting to get our bird, and he is sitting on his little feet right now. And he sits up pretty nicely. Next, we are going to add the back of his head. So this part here, the little one that we built. And that guy is going to go right back here where these two studs are. So we're going to, and he kind of fits in between these two pieces that are still poking up. So just like that. And then right next to him goes our head. So the piece of the head that's sticking up is going to go right on top of that piece. And we're going to clip him in just like that. And then last is the front of the bird. So we are going to take our piece that we built, and we are going to turn it so that it looks like a cross going upwards like this. And we're going to add that right in the middle there. And that is our bird. Again, if you used the legs, he does sit on his own. If you do choose to, you can take his little legs off. And remember that piece I mentioned earlier that has the cross in there. If you use one of the bars that has the crosses, you can build a little stand for him. I built a little stand just out of trees pieces and grass pieces. And again, that little bar sticking out. So you can build whatever kind of stand you want. And he'll slide onto, as long as you have that bar, he'll slide onto any bar just like that. And that is our bird. Thanks for joining me. We just built a beautiful bird. Feel free if you need to go back and relearn any steps or fast forward or rewind, go for it. It's a beautiful piece. Again, it's a kit that I have modified, but it is a great build for an advanced builder, and it's a good time to learn a lot of skills as well.